Maybe I'll fail, maybe I'll crash land, but can't be any worse off than putting around and sitting around here. When I first started out my career, I was a TV reporter. I loved doing videos and content. But one coming of age moment, I was in the middle of a blizzard in the state of Wisconsin in the Midwest of the United States. And I was out at 10 p.m. at night doing a live weather hit. And the cameraman gave me the signal. Only problem was I couldn't see him. The blizzard was just so messy. And I missed my cue and I looked like an idiot on state television and I felt like an idiot. And my hair literally froze over. I had hair at the time. And I was just miserable. And it was at that very moment I decided, I'm going to do something different with my life. I want to be home in my pajamas at 10 p.m. at night. And it took me a couple of years in transition. I went back to school. I picked up an MBA. I actively worked to try and figure out how to do something different. And I fell into e-commerce. And along the way, I ran into this thing called Amazon. The last company I worked at before I started my own business was a lighting company. And Amazon had some, interesting changes happening and a competitor came on the scene and just kind of changed the model for them. So I took them from like $100,000, $200,000 a month in revenue all the way to 1.2 million. So almost 10x them. They called me into the office one day and were like, we're terminating employment. I'm like, what for? And they're like, well, we're going to go a different direction. And I'm like, after I 9X you guys, you're going to go a different direction? Like, what direction could be better than what I'm currently doing? And they're like, yeah, we understand it. That's why we're going to give you a 3-month severance. In the United States, severance is quite rare. And to get 3 months is benevolent of them. So they gave me a really head start. There was about 48 hours of time. I'd go into the forest, I'd look up at the sun, I'd look at the birds and the bees, and I'd be like, did I peak? And I was wondering, had I peaked in life? Like, who is going to hire a 30-year-old at $200,000? And for 48 hours, I was miserable. And then I had this big aha moment, a few prayers, and, I don't drink. So there was no couch sitting and wondering. I had to really battle my inner demon for 48 hours. Finally dawned on me. I wake up, I think it was a Saturday morning, and I said to myself, you know what? I'll freaking hire myself. I go on LinkedIn, I make a post, and I say, hey, I'm going to do some consulting work while I figure out my next steps. In under 48 hours after that post, I signed a $3,000 contract per month with a consulting gig. It was for a supplement company who's still a client today, 6.5 years later, which is awesome because I was just a solopreneur when I made that post. And today, 6.5 years later, I have 550 employees. I'm running the largest Amazon agency in the world, at least from an independently owned standpoint, if nothing else.
Your biggest successes came from kind of biggest failures, or at least failures.
Yes, moments of tension or moments of uncomfort. And I'm just like, I'm going to get in my rocket ship and get off this planet, right? I'm going to do something better. I'm going to get to the stars and reach. And I'll fail. Maybe I'll crash land, but can't be any worse off than putting around and sitting around here, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, that ad back in the day. It's in a lot of business books where they post an ad and they're like, hey, looking for help to go to Antarctica. You might die. It's going to be super cold. It just goes on and on about all the bad things about the adventure. And the guys that showed up for that ad, that advertisement, ended up being burly men who were looking for that. And then they were the successful trek to the Antarctic and they beat their competition and it made world history, like first guys to cross the Antarctica or something. I forget. I love that shit. And I love hiring other people who love tough things and just want to level up, go on an adventure and want to bring prosperity to the world. And so that's what I've built my systems around. And you're right, I'm driven by leveling up through adversity.